Picture this. I arrive at a minimum security correctional facility. Sounds serious, right? But there are no fences, just grass, trees, and buildings that look like summer camp cabins. I half expected a lanyard and a schedule for arts and crafts. Inmates were sunbathing on the lawn. Sunbathing? In prison. I thought maybe the fences were invisible or guarded by highly trained squirrels. But no, it was just open. You could, in theory, just wander off. The possibility hung in the air like the smell of cheap disinfectant. My first day was a masterclass in confusion. I braced for steel doors and echoing shouts, but instead, a guy named Dave handed me a thin mattress and pointed to a bunk. The room had 3 other guys, one muttering over a crossword puzzle. A 7-letter word for disappointment? Oh wait, that's just my life. The silence was louder than any alarm bell. It felt like everyone else was in on a secret. Minimum security? More like, we kind of trust you, but not really security. You could almost forget you were incarcerated if not for the matching, ill-fitting jumpsuits. The biggest threat seemed to be boredom, or running out of sugar for your contraband coffee. This wasn't Shawshank Redemption. This was Shawshank Relaxation, with a side of existential dread. It was a whole new world, and I wasn't sure if I should be relieved or deeply concerned. Welcome to Camp Minimum. The place screamed summer camp for wayward adults. Bunk beds, ancient bathrooms, and a dining hall where the food inspired you to develop a rich inner life. Activities like anger management were scheduled, but attendance was more, if you feel like it. The most popular activity, looking busy while doing nothing. The rules existed, somewhere probably laminated in an office no one visited. In practice, they were polite requests. Please don't wander into the staff parking lot. Try not to brew hooch in the toilet. Guards walked patrols with the enthusiasm of someone counting grains of sand. Their main job seemed to be head counts and asking if you'd seen Barry, who was always missing. It was a society within a society, with its own unwritten codes and lax enforcement. You were still locked up, mail read, calls monitored. But the day-to-day felt like being grounded by parents who immediately forgot and left for the weekend. The lines between confinement and liberty blurred. It was less about iron bars and more about invisible, saggy nets. Welcome to the strange limbo of minimum security. Sometimes, as dusk settled, the air took on a distinctly herbal bouquet. Think college dorm, not prison. It wasn't a secret, just part of the landscape. My introduction came courtesy of a guy named Spider, who offered me a joint. Officer Miller's probably watching cat videos. Back home, this would be a major operation. Here, it was Tuesday. Finding the best smoking spots became a pastime. Behind the laundry machines, by the old tool shed. It was a low-stakes game of hide-and-seek, with guards who weren't really looking. The thrill wasn't in breaking the rule, but in the shared understanding that the rule was flexible. Staff reactions ranged from disappointed sighs to pretending they were smelling incense. No one was encouraging it, but no one was fighting it either. The system was enforced with a shrug. A little weed wasn't the battle they wanted to fight. In minimum security, rules were more like suggestions, and everyone knew it. In the world of minor prison infractions, the hoodie was king, a Swiss Army knife of subtle defiance. Contraband headphones? Hoodie up. Sneaky cigarette? Hoodie up. It was your invisibility cloak. I remember once we scored real chocolate, not the waxy commissary stuff. We huddled in a corner, dividing it like diamond cutters. Officer Henderson ambled over. One guy faked a coughing fit, another started a wild sports debate, and I stared at the ceiling. Henderson listened, nodded, and moved on. He probably saw the chocolate, but decided it wasn't worth the effort. Some guards preferred chatting about fishing to searching for contraband. It didn't feel like we were outsmarting the system. It felt like the system was on a long lunch break. There was an unspoken agreement. Don't cause too much trouble, and they won't look too closely. The real challenge wasn't getting caught. It was not laughing while you got away with it. The power dynamic was less about fear, more about mutual understanding of the system's absurdities. Inmates often had the upper hand in these small negotiations. That was the daily game. All this freedom, it's a double-edged sword. You start to test the boundaries, not out of malice, but because they're so flimsy. Our main entertainment was the basketball court, a dusty patch of concrete, but to us, It was Madison Square Garden. One afternoon, a bet about half-court shots escalated. Slick, ever the schemer, decided the hoop would look better above his bunk. Suddenly, two guys were carrying a full-sized basketball hoop across the yard, trying to look casual. Guards converged, not with sirens, but with bewildered curiosity. Inmates roared with laughter. Slick argued that a personal hoop was crucial for his rehabilitation. It was pure, hilarious chaos. Nobody got hurt, but for 10 glorious minutes, Camp Minimum reached peak absurdity. That was the true spirit of the place. Sometimes, the only thing more ridiculous than the rules was how much fun we had breaking them.